A very good morning to our MIIM members and friends in Germany, and good afternoon to our participants joining from India. Thank you for joining us today for the informative webinar, India's Textile Sector, a pathway for German Mittelstand into a thriving market, being organized under the Make in India Mittelstand program in association with OAV, the German Asia-Pacific Business Association, as well as our MIIM partners Invest India, the Government of Odisha, and Rödl Partner. Rödl Partner is a knowledge partner for the MIIM program, and I am Maya Yadu, the MIIM project coordinator for Rödl Partner in Pune, India, and I will take you through the session today. Now, before we continue the session, let me just very briefly explain the technical side of our program. The following functions are available to you. In the upper right corner of your screen, you will find the control panel. Here, you can adjust the audio settings and choose, for example, between your headset or the computer audio. Please note that as a participant, you are muted by default. A bit further down the dashboard, you will find the question panel. We will request the attendees to please post their questions in the question section, and we will take these up during the last leg of the webinar during the Q&A session. Now, allow me to briefly introduce the Make in India Mittelstand program to you. MIIM is an initiative of the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, DPIIT, and the Embassy of India in Berlin. MIIM provides a platform that integrates a wide range of support services for German Mittelstand companies and family-owned enterprises. It is part of the Make in India initiative of the Indian government and is a program designed to facilitate investment, foster innovation, enhance skill development, protect intellectual property, and build best-in-class manufacturing infrastructure. The MIIM program offers all support services such as strategy consulting, M&A, operational market entry support, tax and legal support, financial services, project financing, location services, technology collaboration, and facilitation of approvals from central and state government agencies under one single umbrella. Part of the program is today's webinar, in which our expert speakers will share their valuable insights into India's textile sector, which has seen remarkable growth due to its extensive raw material-based, skilled labor, and strong global demand. Our expert speakers will discuss market opportunities for German Mittelstand companies and also highlight the strategic advantages of investing in Odisha, a state renowned for its rich textile heritage and favorable business environment. Allow me to briefly introduce today's expert speakers before moving on. Let me start with our esteemed guest, Mr. Hemant Sharma. Mr. Hemant Sharma, a 1995 batch IAS officer, currently holds several pivotal positions in the Government of Odisha. He serves as the Principal Secretary of the Industries Department, MSME Department, and Energy Department. Additionally, he is the Chairman of the Industrial Promotion and Investment Corporation of Odisha Limited. Mr. Sharma's expertise spans various sectors, including energy management, industrial development, and policy reforms. He's driving Odisha's industrial growth with a focus on improving the industrial ecosystem in the state, developing industrial infrastructure, and implementing policy reforms. Next up is Kimora Klug. Kimora Klug is a communication economist with a specialized background in marketing and the renewable energy sector. She studied international culture and business studies at the University of Passau, where she developed a strong foundation in intercultural business dynamics. Over the years, she has acquired a wealth of knowledge and diverse experience across various roles. At the German Asia-Pacific Business Association, or as we call it in German, Ostasiatischer Verein oder OAV, she was in charge for the German Energy Solutions Initiative for South and East Asia, a program funded by the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy. Since 2020, she has served as a regional manager for South Asia, where she also oversees the activities of the OAV Textiles Roundtable. And last but not least, we're very happy to also have Bhavna Dadhi on board today. Bhavna holds an MBA from ISB Hyderabad and an MA in economics with over 15 years of techno-managerial experience. She has led strategic engagements for the private sector, central and state governments, and international organizations. At Invest India, she leads the textiles and apparel and leather and footwear sectors, collaborating with the government and industry to promote investments and exports. And now, without further ado, I'll hand over the virtual mic to our first speaker of the session, Ms. Kimora Klug. Kimora, over to you, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Maya, for your kind introduction. First of all, I would like to give you an overview of OAV. The German Asia-Pacific Business Association was founded in 1900, a very old association. We are a cross-sectoral network and our members include major industrial corporations, medium-sized manufacturing companies, trading firms, banks, insurance companies, and various service providers. Our expertise really lies in the Asia-Pacific region, and as such, we cover South Asia, that I'm responsible for, Greater China, Japan, and Korea, Southeast Asia, and also Australia and New Zealand. OEB is also one of the sponsoring associations of the Asia-Pacific Committee of German Business, the APA, and therefore we were also present last week at the APK conference in New Delhi. And speaking of our services, I can describe it maybe in 4 pillars. The first pillar is probably our biggest, the events. Offer digital and practical topics online and offline. We have a special format, so-called our country committees, our country committee meetings, where we invite the German ambassadors from the Asia-Pacific region to talk in a close round about political situations with our members. Also, the chief delegates of AHK are invited to these formats. And then we also have our annual flagship event, the Ostasiatisches Liebesmahl at the Town Hall of Hamburg, with high-ranking guests from the fields of economics, politics, and diplomacy from Germany and Asia. And what we also do offer are delegation trips or business trips to the Asia-Pacific region. This year we were, for example, in Indonesia, focusing on the healthcare and med sector. Our second pillar is consulting that we offer from a wide range, from production site selection, for example, also simple troubleshootings and visa support. And as a third pillar, we have our publication. We publish a quarterly member magazine, the Inside Asia Pacific magazine. And last but not least, the fourth pillar is, this is probably more the overarching pillar, the network itself. We bring people together from Germany and Asia Pacific, and we also have a network in the network itself, the Young Leaders Network. That the target group is young leaders under the age of 40. And we also do offer working groups. We have one regarding healthcare, one focusing on TVET, and also the Textile Roundtable, under which that we want to focus on today. So maybe some highlight events of the Textile Roundtable initiative in the last 4 years. Beginning with 2021, we offered a format where we invited the German textile industry to talk about in a close round how they dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic. We also invited 2 German government representatives from BMWK, from the Ministry of Economic Affairs, 2% support measures for the German textile industry to overcome the pandemic. And in 2022, we had a whole series of webinars in cooperation with the Eco Institute on the topic of climate change and textile industry. One of the key topics there was the importance and the measurement and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions for businesses. And yeah, actually the last 2 years were marked by visits from Bangladesh. So 2022, we had a textile roundtable on the occasion of the visit of the delegation of the BGMEA, the Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Exporters Association. We had there, we organized a company visit at Miles Group and had a textile discussion with case studies on practical impacts of German and EU due diligence legislations and sustainable fashion trends. and on the sourcing countries. And last year, we had another delegation from the BKMEA, the Bangladesh Knitwear Manufacturers and Exporters Association, the bigger association of the two. And there we also did a company visit at Otto Group and Bonprix, and had a textile roundtable at Wünsche Group, also on the topic of sustainability and transparent supply chains. Both events were with the delegations took place in cooperation with the Embassy of Bangladesh in Berlin and also the German importers. So these are basically the highlight events of our textile roundtable from the last years. If you're interested or have any questions, I'm happy to get in touch. Thank you very much for your participation and interest in OEV and the textile roundtable, and I'm happy to get in touch.
Thank you so much, Kimora, for introducing the OAV and its textile roundtable to us. And it really is, very insightful to get like a very concise overview of what exactly you are doing. And I'm sure, many participants might already be taking some of these offerings that OAV has or might plan to do so in the future. So, I can also just highlight, please do get in touch with Kimora. Okay, and I would now hand over, I think, to our next speaker, to Ms. Bhavna Rathi. Bhavna, over to you and your insights on the sector, on available incentives and opportunities for German Mittelstand companies. We're really looking forward to hearing more on that now. And your PPT is perfect.
Thank you. So very good afternoon, good morning. My name is Bhavna Rathi and I lead the leather and footwear and textiles and apparel cluster at Invest India. A brief about our organization. Invest India is the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency of Government of India. Our mandate is to bring in more investments into the country to support domestic players and also to facilitate exports and R&D. So where do we come in? So whenever an investor is looking to invest into India, there are certain questions that the investor has in mind. For example, what is the current regulatory and tax environment? Which sectors offer the best incentives? Where are the opportunities? What is the kind of government support that is being offered? How do I set up business into India? Which is the most favorable policy? Which is the location that I should be looking at? How can I connect with the government? How do I expand my business into India? So we are essentially the first point of contact for any investor who's looking to invest into the country. We're a Government of India body which acts as an interface between the government, including the center and the state government bodies, as well as the foreign missions and agencies, as well as the industry, wherein we work very closely with the industry investors as well as the association. So we work with investors through the entire life cycle of a project, wherein we work with them on identifying an opportunity, to identify the location, the market strategy, to helping them set up business into India, help them with regulatory clearances, guide them on policy, and even afterwards, once they've set up the business into India, we help them for smooth ease of doing business. So whatever support they require for setting up, and even afterwards, we work through the entire life cycle. So this is just a brief on pre-investment, investment and aftercare support that Invest India provides to all the investors. And all this support is provided pro bono. So being a Government of India agency, we do not charge any fee. And all these services are provided to the investors who are looking to invest into India or to expand without charging any consulting fee whatsoever. So brief overview of the industry. So India is one of the fastest growing economies. We've been growing at over 8% consecutively over the last few years, and we're projected to exceed 10% in the next decade. And why this is important is because this is despite and in spite all the global uncertainties, the disruptions in the supply chain, the inflationary pressures. And we're also currently at 3.75 trillion and expected to grow 10 times by 2047. From being the 10th largest, today we are the 5th largest, and in terms of purchasing power parity, even the 3rd largest economies in the world. We're expected to be the second largest by 2032 and largest by 2050. We have 65% population under the 35 years of age, and we also have a demographic dividend of sorts, wherein we'll have one of the largest English-speaking skilled working population across the globe. The rising per capita income is expected to rise 10 times to reach $26,000 by 247. And we also have a flourishing ecosystem of startups, wherein over 1,25,000 startups have been recognized by the government. And why this is important is because a lot of these startups are into innovation, technology. So a lot of push is being given by the government in pushing these startups. If you talk about the textiles market, we are currently at about 138 billion US dollars, with the share of apparel at about 100 billion, technical textiles at about 26 billion USD, and home textiles 7% at about 10 billion. And we're expected to grow 250 billion at a CAGR of 10% by 2030. And we're also expecting that our exports would reach 100 billion by the same time period. So the market is estimated to reach about $350 billion by 2030. We're surging ahead. We supply to about 100 plus countries, be it Europe, Russia, Japan, UK. We have the presence of the complete textiles value chain in the country. So we are the second largest producer in terms of yarn, fifth largest in terms of fabric, apparel, eighth largest, and home textiles. So the textile sector contributes 2 to 3% to India's GDP. We have about 45 million, 75% of which is women in the workforce. If you talk about foreign direct investment in the sector, it has increased 2 times over the last 10 years to reach about 4 billion USD, and it's rising. Most of the countries which are contributing are Mauritius, Japan, Singapore, Netherlands, USA, and Canada. And some of the cases, the recent FDI investments that have been in the textile sector have been from Young from Epic Group, from Ramatex, J2LFA, and Firemount. There are lots of other investments that are coming into the sector, but we cannot disclose the name at this point, but a lot of work, a lot of traction is happening in India's textiles ecosystem. In terms of German FDI in India, we have seen an inflow of about 86 million from Germany. While this amount may be negligible at this point, but what is very interesting to see is that this has increased 4 times in absolute terms. And some of the top German textiles companies have invested across multiple subsectors like synthetic fibers, yarns, technical textiles. In addition to this, a number of investment opportunities are being offered by, a number of opportunities are being offered for sourcing and investment, because Germany is one of the largest producers of technical textiles. It's also one of the largest exporter for textiles machinery, while being import dependent on natural fiber based apparel from countries like India. So there's a situation of mutual win-win, wherein you are importing non-knit women's suit from the world, mostly from China, and India has a potential to be able to supply this. Knit t-shirts, knit sweaters is another area when we can look at collaboration. And even in terms of non-woven textiles, a lot of dependence India has on technical textiles. Textiles machinery is another field where we are depending on a number of countries such as Germany, and there are lots of opportunities for us to collaborate here. And other new age materials like spandex, which is a critical raw material for growing activewear and athleisure segments, which is really rapidly growing in India. These are also very high value segments for us. If you talk about technical textiles, it's a sunrise sector in India. A lot of government support is being given to technical textiles. We're currently at about 25 billion USD in terms of market size, and we're expecting to double this over the coming years. We have about 8% in the global market share, and a lot of traction, a lot of investments, a lot of pushes coming in this sector, because a lot of enablers are working in their favor. So if you talk about increasing per capita income of consumers, the growth of end user industries like construction, automobiles, mobile tech, for example, the increasing acceptance of products, wherein people are now understanding how technical textiles can be used. There are other use cases also that have been developed for the sector. Skilled workforce at competitive cost is what India can offer as well. And there's also a push towards standards, guidelines, and regulation to ensure that the quality is not compromised at all. There's a lot of focus on innovation and R&D as well. So we're expecting that we will be reaching about 80 billion USD in the coming years rapidly in India. And if you look at the sub-segments which are high, which offer high growth, so if you currently we are with the share that we have in global market, we are doing very well in pack tech. Indutech is about 7%, home tech is about 10%, mobile tech, med tech are other key prominent segments. And there's a lot of other potential, other segments that have a lot of potential. For example, mobile tech expected to grow at 24%. So there's a lot of the ecosystem for automobiles in India is growing. There are lots of regulations coming in terms of mandatory seat belts, seat bags as well. So I think that is an area that is seeing a lot of growth now and also expected to see in the future. Meditech is another area that is seeing a lot of growth. Sport tech is also a high growing segment driven by the growth in the fitness culture and increasing disposable income. Adventure tourism also is another area of focus. Protech is growing at 48%, and there is a lot of demand, for instance, for fire resistant material for defense applications as well. And Indutech is also another segment that holds promise. So given the strength that Germany has for technical textiles, I think a lot of opportunities exist for the players to look at India, not only for sourcing, but also to set up their manufacturing or as a potential market, not for partnerships as well as for selling, for sales. This is just a summary of what are the wide opportunities that are available across mobile tech. For example, you have seat belts, airbags, carpet fabrics under mobile tech. Pack tech, you have a lot of focus on woven sacks, flexible IBCs, packaging net. Indutech, you have ropes and filtration fabrics and conveyor belts, meditech, sport tech, geotech. So there are 12 segments which are there for technical textiles, and a lot of opportunities exist in all of them to be leveraged in India. Even for textiles machinery, we are expected that the investments that will come in India's textiles and apparel sector is about 100 billion USD. So even if you look at the projected investment, that will be about USD 50 billion in machinery alone. So though there are a lot of key foreign and domestic players in India, but there's a high unmet demand in terms of machinery, especially in terms of new age machinery, wherein a lot of focus is now on recycling, sustainability, recycled fibers and fabrics. So a lot of potential is there in terms of partnerships for machinery as well. If you talk about the recent engagements that we've had with investors who are looking at India, there is a leading tire cord manufacturer that is planning a 200 million investment to expand its presence in India. It's already existing in the country, but Invest India is working very closely to set up another plant for them. There's a leading zipper manufacturer that is investing another $48 million for a new facility in India. From Germany, there's a leading spacer fabric manufacturer that is planning a facility in India, and there is another weather strip manufacturer planning a facility in India. So this is just an illustration of the kind of projects that we are working on, not only in terms of getting new investments into the country, but also helping the existing investors who have been in the country for some time, who have benefited in the country, and who are bullish on India going forward, are now looking to expand as well. We're working a lot in terms of knowledge partnerships. We have launched a number of reports. For example, there was a recent sport tech report that we were a part of. There was an agrotech report that we were a part of. We've also been publishing a lot of thought leaderships and papers with other industry bodies as well. So a lot of work is being happening in technical textiles in particular. A brief on the government policies and incentives. So first and foremost is the National Technical Textiles Mission. It's from financial year 21 to financial year 26 with a total outlay of about 177 million USD. It has four components. One is supporting research and development, wherein about 176 projects have been supported, are being subsidized and incentivized with startups or with certain partnerships with the industry academia. A lot of focus is on promotion and market development, wherein a lot of national conferences, international conferences, demonstration centers are being facilitated. Training awareness is another area of focus, and export promotion is also being focused on under this entire umbrella of scheme. Another interesting initiative by the Government of India is the PM Mitra Parks. So to be honest, India historically struggled with issues of logistics in terms of, a rather spread out supply chain for textiles. But now this is being addressed through dedicated large infrastructure integrated parks, wherein the entire value chain would be at one place. So it is going to be set up in 7 states across India through a competitive process. These states were selected. Now these would be world-class parks with only presence of the players in the textiles ecosystem through the entire supply chain. There'll be pre-approvals, so you don't have to apply again and again. You'll have all the approvals in place. The focus would be on sustainability and circularity. It'll be encompassing through the entire farm to fiber to factory to fashion to foreign, the 5F vision of the Honorable Prime Minister of India. This will have dedicated uninterrupted supply of high power grid, and it will also lead to a lot of reduction in industry fragmentation. A lot of employment would be there, a lot of savings in terms of costs as well as time. So this is one of the flagship initiatives of the Ministry of Textiles in partnership with the states that is being undergoing right now. And another thing is that the government accords high priority to textile sector. And as I mentioned earlier as well, technical textiles is a sunrise sector. It's a high focus area for the government of India. So besides the ministry, besides the government of India at the center, the number of incentives are also being offered at the state levels. So for instance, when an investor comes to look at India, a number of state governments are giving them capital subsidy. So whatever investments you're making in plant and machinery, the government is sort of subsidizing that. Up to 45% is being subsidized. You get that money back. A lot of focus is on skill development. So whatever incentive, whatever support you're giving to your employees in terms of training, the government is again subsidizing that as well. The utilities are being subsidized in terms of the rates are lower. There's a rebate in terms of 1 rupees per unit for some units in certain states as well. There is stamp duty exemption. There is land subsidy. There is interest subvention scheme as well. There is wage subsidy as well. And a lot of special incentives are being given to companies that are adopting green and environmentally conscious practices as well. So this is just a broad overview of the kind of subsidies that are being offered. Odisha, of course, is another state that is offering a lot of subsidies, and I'm sure sir would be able to shed more light on that. But a lot of support is being given by both the government at the center as well as at the state as well. So now, just to summarize, we have now moved from why India to why not India, and a lot of investment interests are coming in India, particularly in textile sector. And we'll be very happy to understand on how we could work with you, collaborate with you to help set up your businesses in India as well. For any queries, you may please feel free to connect with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. I especially also like the last catchphrase that you have mentioned there. It's a very good one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And I would now, last but certainly not least, hand over to Mr. Hemant Sharma, Principal Secretary, who will share his valuable insights on the state of Odisha as an investment destination, as Bhavna also just mentioned. And, generally, of course, as an investment destination, as well as particularly in the textile sector. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me to this short webinar with friends from Germany and also from with my esteemed colleagues from Invest India, I was witnessing Bhavna Rathi just giving a very eloquent presentation about what India has to offer for textiles and textile related industries, and where she also mentioned about several incentives and other support structures which have been put into place by other state governments in India also. So I am Hemant Sharma. I am Principal Secretary Industries of the state of Odisha. Odisha is a state on the eastern seaboard of India. Who would be running the slides for me? Can I do it from my side?
So actually, you can just mention whenever you want the slide to change. I think that will be easier. So my colleague is basically handling it from Germany.
All right. Thank you so much. So Odisha is on the eastern seaboard of India. It is on the Bay of Bengal. Just to help you place what size and scale of operations are we talking of in a state like Odisha. So in terms of size, in terms of its geographical area, Odisha is of the size of Bangladesh, a country Bangladesh, which is also in our neighborhood. And in terms of population, it's almost the size of Spain, a country in Germany's neighborhood in Europe. So that's how you should be able to place Odisha in terms of geographical areas like Bangladesh, and in terms of population like Spain. India is like that. India, you will have states which which are much larger than many countries. Next, please. So we have now a new government. In India, I'm sure that you are aware, is a democratic framework, and we have a new state government in place. With this state government, which is very keenly aligned with our federal government at central level at New Delhi, we have a new era of progress, shaping a vibrant and developed Odisha by 2036. This is the vision of our Honorable Chief Minister Shri Mohan Charan Majhi. We call it a new government which works with double speed, and because the two governments, the state government and the federal government, are aligned with each other and have the same focus, same drive, same priorities, which include very fast, rapid progress on industrial growth, and also focusing on labor-intensive sectors like the textiles and the technical textiles. Next, please. So these are the four features which actually distinguish Odisha from other states in the country. We call it Odisha's edge, our economy, which is growing at a phenomenal rate, more than the national average. The demography, the demographic advantage which we enjoy, we're a very large working age population, and where the state government has invested heavily into upskilling and skilling the workforce. We also have a geographical advantage as we are a coastal state. We are a mineral-rich coastal state. There are states in India which are mineral-rich but are not coastal, for instance, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. But Odisha is a state which is both mineral rich as well as coastal. So we have this geographical advantage which gives us a port-led development, port-led industrial development which is possible. And I'll explain this point a little bit as we move forward. Our industrial ecosystem, which is our economy, which gives us the economic strength, is very vast. And I'll again explain this in a few moments from now. Next, please. See, this is Odisha's map, and as you could see, we are rich in minerals. We are the #1 producer of coal, iron ore, manganese, bauxite, nickel, and chromite in the country. We are the largest producer of steel, stainless steel, aluminium, and many other ferroalloys, ferrochrome, ferromanganese, ferrosilica. More importantly, we are a very large producer of rare earth minerals also, which gives us an edge in what is called the new age critical minerals, which the world has identified as the next generation minerals, metals, and alloys for a decarbonized world. These minerals are also spread throughout our state. They are not concentrated in one or two parts of the state, they are spread throughout the state, which also makes it easy for us to extract those minerals with minimum damage to our natural environment. And so it is a sustainable extraction of minerals which we do, and which has given us an edge in India in terms of more resources for the government to spend on infrastructure, to spend on skill upgradation, to set up industrial states, to set up logistics parks, and therefore that is giving us the economic and industrial strength which we have today. Next, please. So this is the map of Odisha vis-a-vis India. So as you could see on the left-hand side map, you could locate Odisha in red, shown in red color, with surrounded by states which are shown in yellow color. This is what we call the East Northeast India. So Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Jharkhand, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, Assam, and the northeastern states. This is 1/3 of India's population, and we are centrally located in this region. This geographical advantage of being located in the center of East Northeast region gives us this logistics advantage. So there are companies in Odisha who are located in Odisha not only for this East and Northeast market, but also because they are able to supply smoothly to the rest of the Indian market, whether it is north, west, or south. On the right side of your screen, you would see Odisha placed vis-a-vis the Southeast Asian market. So if you look at India's map, the cities on the west coast of India, like Mumbai and others, they are closer to the West Asian and European countries. Odisha being on the Bay of Bengal and on the eastern seaboard, we are closer to the Southeast Asian markets. Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan, Korea, Singapore, all these markets are closer to us. In fact, more than 50% of the world economy is within 6 hours of logistics travel distance from the ports of Odisha. This is what we call the geographical advantage of Odisha vis-a-vis India. Next, please. So this is the map of Odisha, basically highlighting the coastal advantage which we have along the east coast of India, and on the coast of Odisha. We have 4 very well developed ports. The Paradip port, which is a Government of India port. Today it is the largest port in India in terms of cargo handling. The Dhamra port and the Gopalpur port. These 2 ports are state government ports which are run in a public-private partnership mode by Adani Ports and SEZ Limited, which is one of the India's largest conglomerates running ports, industrial areas, industrial estates, and logistics services. Up north on our borders of Bengal, we have a new port coming up, Suvarnrekha, which is being set up by the Tatas. Along these ports, we have very well developed industrial areas, some of them in a special economic zone. For instance, at Gopalpur port, we have a special economic zone and a domestic tariff area run in a park by Tata Steel. So a special economic zone would mean a duty-free, a tax-free zone. So for those companies who would want to manufacture in India, in Odisha, and also want to export in the Southeast Asian or other markets, this becomes like a duty-free or a tax-free zone. There are several companies who have taken advantage of this and are now locating themselves in such industrial areas. Next, please. Now, focusing on the textiles, apparel, and the technical textiles ecosystem in Odisha, the single biggest advantage which we have is the skilled workforce. So, Odisha takes pride in investing in our ITIs, polytechnics, and engineering institutions. So, at all 3 levels of imparting skill in amongst our working population, we have invested heavily. Among the top 100 ITIs in India today, 16 ITIs are from Odisha, and amongst the top 20 pass outs last year of the ITI graduates who passed out last year in India, 11 were from Odisha. So that could give you an idea of how important the state government has deemed the skill development ecosystem. Our ITIs, where we impart a 2-year to 3-year program, which makes workers readily available for shop floors, for factories, and polytechnic, where we produce supervisory level work staff, and engineering institutions, colleges, where we provide 4-year degree course in engineering. So all this ecosystem of skilled workers today is most important for the textile industry. There are large number of textile clusters in India, for instance, in Coimbatore or in Bangalore, up north in Noida, in Ludhiana. Most of these textile clusters today in India are actually fed by workers from Odisha, skilled workers from Odisha, and wherever you go in Indian industrial clusters, you will find the most productive, the most skilled, and the most disciplined workers are from Odisha. Now, this fact has been discovered by many domestic textile players in India. Companies like Jockey, for instance, or Shahi Exports, or Wellspun, or Cotton World, or Mass, or Epic, First Steps, Baby Wear, Aditya Birla Fashion Retail. Now, all these companies now have vibrant, very, very good factories in Odisha. Primarily, these factories came to Odisha because of the skilled worker advantage and because of the way the state government supports skilling opportunities for workers which are required in textiles and technical textile companies. We have several schemes where we have set up large number of skill development centers in interior areas of Odisha, and where regularly workers are trained and are then sent to the factories which are located mostly close to the state capital. This particular advantage is further, multiplied by the raw material advantage which we are now bringing in. We have a petroleum, chemicals, and petrochemicals investment region called the PCPIR being set up by Government of India, where Indian Oil Corporation, a petrochemical giant in India, is the anchor tenant. They have already set up a PTA and an MEG plant. Now they are also setting up a DTY and an FDY as well as a PSF plant close by, which is a technical textiles park close to Paradip. Indian Oil Corporation is the anchor investor there, along with MCPI, which is a company belonging to Haldia Petrochemicals Group, who are setting up the yarn and the other manufacturing facilities. Close by, we have set up a textile park where we have ready to move in industrial plots available ranging from 1 acre to 5 acres to 50 acres. These are modular in nature, and we have a commitment from Indian Oil Corporation for preferential allocation of raw material, whether it is the yarn or PTA or MEG or other material which is required for technical textiles, a preferential allocation for raw material for a long-term supply security within this technical textile park. Similarly, we have another unit coming up by Welspun. Welspun is setting up an integrated textile park at Cuttack, which is again from starting from the cotton yarn up to the end and fabric and even garmenting and apparel manufacturing. Close by, we have also set up a performance and sports wear park where companies like Neeran, Anand, and others have already set up their footwear manufacturing units. Now, this textiles and technical textiles ecosystem is supported by raw material availability on the long-term basis by companies like IOCL on the man-made fibers front, and again because of the availability of a very large stream of workforce, skilled workers, which are available with state government support to work in these plants. Next, please. So I already mentioned to you there are large number of companies not only in the textile sector but also outside the textile sector. For instance, in metallurgical industries, in chemical industries, these are all multinational companies who have discovered the advantages of being set up in the eastern seaboard of India and have progressed immensely because of the positive work environment and because of the progressive policies which we have in Odisha. Next, please. Next, please. Next, yeah. So I think this is the industrial map of Odisha. I have already explained to you the port-based locations at Suvarnareka, Dhamra, Paradeep, Gopalpur, and the new upcoming Mahanadi Riverine port. The line which you see in black on the right side of this map is the National Highway 16, which connects Kolkata up north with Chennai on the south. And most of our textile and technical textile industry are located along this national highway at places like, for instance, Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, Khurda, Bhadrak, Baleshwar, Jagatsinghpur, Dayagarh. All these locations, we have very good industrial parks specially designed for textiles, technical textiles, apparel and garment industry with factory gate availability of water, power and connectivity. We have a scheme where the technical textiles and the textiles industry are assured of factory gate availability of at least 132 kV power, 5 cusecs of water and at least a 60 feet road up to your factory gate at state government expense. So you need not spend on external infrastructure. Apart from that, there are other facilities also. We have developed workers hostels in most of these industrial parks and where this is like walk to work concept where workers can stay in these 5,000 seated, 2,000 seated hostels and then can actually walk to work in these technical textile parts. Next, please. Cost of land, cost of water, cost of power, and reduced cost of logistics. The location of these industrial parks vis-a-vis our major railway lines, vis-a-vis our major national highways, and close to the ports at Gopalpur, Paradeep, and Visakhapatnam further down south, where containerized cargo facilities are available, makes it imperative that makes it quite clear that the cost of land, water, and power, and accordingly the cost of doing business in Odisha is much lesser as compared to many other locations in India. For instance, I'll just mention the cost of power. The cost of power, landed cost of electricity for a textile, technical textile, apparel, garment, or any wearable unit in Odisha is rupees 4 per unit for up to 10 years. And this comes with a discount, inbuilt discount by the state government, apart from other tax exemptions and incentives which are available. Similarly, the cost of land in Odisha today is 1/10 of Mumbai, 1/20th of Bangalore, and almost 1/5 of Visakhapatnam or Hyderabad. So the advantage of Odisha lies not only in its skilled workforce or its logistical advantage, but also that the cost of setting up of an industry and the long-term cost of running an industry, particularly on textiles, technical textiles and apparel and garment, is much lower. This is a highly competitive industry, and therefore these factors are extremely crucial and actually help the margins and the thin margins on which these companies operate. Next, please. Next. Well, so there's just 2 minutes on this slide. Bhavna from Invest India, she was also alluding to some of the incentives and support, financial support, which is given by state governments, which is generally over and above what is available under the schemes of the central government, the Government of India. Now, our incentive structure for technical textiles and apparel garment industry is presented here. We have a 30% capital investment subsidy without any upper limit, which means that if you spend, let's say, $100, you will get $30 from government. If you spend $1 million, then you will get $0.3 million from the Government of Odisha. This comes to you in 6 installments post the date of commissioning. So you get, let's say, 6% of your capital investment every year from the date of your commissioning. Within these 6 years, if there is any additional investment which happens, that also is clubbed together with the original investment, and therefore this period could extend up to 11 years, which means that from the date you start setting up of the plant, 11 years thereafter, whatever investment goes in plant and machinery is incentivized up to 30% by the state government of Odisha. I already mentioned to you about the rates of electricity and the way it is incentivized. The landed cost of electricity in Indian currency terms is ₹4 per unit, which is mentioned here in dollar terms, which comes with a discount from the state government. There is a 100% reimbursement of net SGST paid up to 200% of your investment in plant and machinery. As I mentioned, let's say if you invest $1,000 in the plant and machinery, the limit for SGST reimbursement becomes $2,000, and this you could claim without any time limit. Virtually, it means that effectively the domestic operations become free from free from the goods and services tax for a substantial life of the plant. On top of that, there is an employment subsidy also where we reimburse ESI and EPF, as well as provide per base subsidy of up to ₹6,000 per Indian rupees per person per month for a period of 5 years. All these subsidies taken together, state government subsidies taken together at the highest level could potentially contribute to about 7.2% of an EBITDA gain at its peak, at the peak rated. Next, please. I already mentioned to you about the good skilling ecosystem which we have in place, the network of government ITIs, which is at the lowest level of imparting skills, which is basically a technical training of 2 years for shop floor and factory workers, along with our polytechnics, which is a 3-year course where we train supervisory level workers and the graduate engineering courses. These taken together provide a real vital support for assured availability of skilled workers. We also run a scheme where an industry can adopt one of our ITIs free of cost, which would mean that, let's say, an industry requires workers to be trained on a typical machinery, some machinery which is generally not available in an ITI or an training institution. The government will procure that machine as per the advice of the industry, train our trainers, and then you could train your workers on those equipment within our ITI. There are companies like, for instance, Tata Motors or Hero Motors, Tata Electronics, and many others who have taken advantage of this scheme, and this is very successful in providing readily employable workers who can then be more productive on the shop floor. Next, please. We are organizing our Global Investors Summit in January 2025 from 28 to 29 January, and I take this opportunity to invite all of you to participate in that Global Investor Summit. You could get in touch with us. This would be an occasion for you to actually see for yourself whatever I am mentioning to you. How do our industrial estates look? Where is Jockey or Page Industries working? How is Shai Exports doing? How are the skill development centers aligned with Shai Exports or with MAS or with Epic or with Uniqlo? What kind of worker skills do we have? What is the quality and reliability of power? What kind of workers hostels have we put in? Whatever I mentioned to you in my presentation, you could actually come and see for yourself and then see whether this makes some sense for you. This conclave is on 20th and 28th January 2025 at Bhubaneswar. We are partnering with Invest India, and you could either get in touch with us or you could also get in touch with Invest India and take advantage of this upcoming event. Next. Next. So this is an investor intention form which we have. We could mail it to you. This is always also available on our website. I would suggest that, and this is a non-binding non-disclosure form. So this is something which we would urge you to just fill this form up and send it to and mail it to us, so that we would be aware of what kind of interest do you have, and then we could, if in case some interest develops in future, we would be ready with our offering for you. Next. These are our contact persons. Maybe you could take note of these: Kalyan Mohanty, Rajiv Dhal, and Devashish Das. They happen to be the nodal officers for this engagement. You could be in touch with them, and we would be very happy to help you with any queries or any other information which you would want from us any further. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for these, really valuable insights and really a lot of information, but very comprehensive, very nice examples as well. Thank you so much. And the form, I think we can even send around when you send, like little thank you emails to those who participated today. So if you want, just download the form and just send it around as well, if anyone is interested. We would now turn to the Q&A session, and I would invite all of our speakers, actually most of us are already here, to turn on their cameras and just join me for a quick round of questions, some of which we have already received during the registration process. So I start with these, and of course, keep them coming if any other questions have arisen during the presentation or arise even now. Feel free to just always post them in the question panel. Now, I'll just start with Mr. Sharma right here. And we have received a question in advance regarding the recent advancements in Odisha's logistics policy aimed at enhancing connectivity, which of course you have also mentioned in your PPT. Could you maybe just summarize once what scope you currently see for specifically logistics companies in the state of Odisha? So I assume someone from a logistics company has posed this question.
Well, the nature of industry in Odisha is logistics heavy. The nature of industry, the metallurgical industry, the petrochemicals industry. So Odisha is a small market. So whatever is produced in Odisha, it requires huge volume of materials to be brought to Odisha, or produced material to be shifted out of Odisha. Just to give an example, to manufacture 1 ton of steel, we need 4 tons of material to be moved, and to manufacture 1 ton of aluminium, we need 8 tons of material to be moved. So all our port locations are integrated with our industrial clusters, let's say steel cluster, aluminum cluster, cement cluster, textile cluster, and then they are logistically connected through road, rail, and even in some case coastal shipping to other parts of India. There are huge opportunities in logistics. Our logistics policy treats logistics sector as an industrial sector. So whatever incentives or support is available for an industrial manufacturing or a service unit is also applicable to a logistics unit. For instance, if somebody wants to set up an inland container depot or a multimodal logistics park or a plain and simple industrial warehousing facility, these are treated as industrial enterprises and therefore qualify for all the support which I mentioned to you in our industrial policy.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the answer. And then, of course, if the person who has asked this question is around, feel free to, get back to Mr. Sharma, for example, or with the form that he's just mentioned. The second question, and I hope, Bhavna, I hope you're still here, because that one's for you, and that one's also a little tricky. So someone has asked, what are regulations and importing licenses? Why are regulations and importing licenses so difficult for SMEs, is what that person perceives, but not necessarily for fast fashion industries? I don't know whether you could maybe shed some light on this question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the couple of things in this question. First is that if you talk about fast fashion industries, I mean, the government is now proactively insisting that the government moves towards being more sustainable and circular. So the traditional way of cut, make, waste approach is now gone, and you need to now really look at the way you're operating. A lot of focus is now on QCOs, on quality, on compliances, on how green you are, what are the processes. ESG is also being talked about. So the focus now is on fast fashion, and that is sort of not being encouraged as much, because we're moving towards a more conscious and sustainable living as well. So the government is coming up with a national policy, a framework for textiles, for circularity in textiles as well. But having said that, I think it's a fundamental thing when you talk about large corporations that are into fast fashion, of course, because of their size and their scale and the pockets that they have. It may be a bit more easier for them to have access to, for example, finances to be able to do the regulatory compliances required, or they may have access to a team of legal experts and so on. So I think it's more of a scale problem, wherein the bigger the houses, they have the capability and the capacities. But having said that, the government also recognizes this. The government has also been proactively working with SMEs. So a lot of support is being offered to SMEs under the MSME Development Act as well, wherein a lot of credit is provided, a lot of handholding support is given, even for startups, and Startup India is there to help and assist. And the ministry is also very proactively working to help ease the compliance requirements, the compliance burdens, to give them information, access as well. So, to have a sort of a level playing field of sorts. So, for example, in the textile sector, we have, requirements where, the SMEs need to be paid their dues within a certain time period as well, so that, they don't have long waiting period to get their dues. So I think the government is also playing its part to ensure that they have the cushion and they have the support and the hand-holding which they need to be able to effectively compete. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And then, of course, we also have sort of facilitation agencies like you from Invest India. We have the Make in India Mittelstand program, which, of course, is also a way of the government kind of trying to address that issue of, not having a level playing field. Absolutely.
Sure. Yes.
One more question, actually, but you have kind of already answered it, so I'll skip that part. It was basically, again, how is India's textile sector evolving towards sustainability? But you have already mentioned that. Unless, of course, you want to get into more detail, you're absolutely free to do that. But the second part of the question was, how much time do you think, from your perspective, and I think that's a major concern at all times, and then, of course, Germans also always have that scary monster of bureaucracy in their minds, which is obviously even in Germany a bit of an issue. So the question here is, how much time is typically lost to bureaucracy when investing? So of course it's a slightly biased question here already, but maybe you could share your experience in this matter.
So I think in this, best would be that Hemant sir also pitches in for this, because I think he would be able to give more detailed insights as well. Just a couple of things here. Firstly, on the sustainability bit, I just wanted to add here that the Ministry of Textiles is really working a lot towards it. Even the state governments are working a lot towards it. The PM Mitra parks that I spoke about, they're focusing a lot on sustainability. They're focusing a lot on having common infrastructure dedicated to circularity and sustainability in the system as well. Bharat is a mega event which is being organized for the textile sector in India, with the entire value chain which would be showcased. And there is going to be a dedicated pavilion only for circularity and sustainability in textiles. So whoever is working in this field, be it a brand, be it a manufacturer, be it an innovator, a women's health group, or whoever is main player in this sector, would have an opportunity to showcase as to what innovations they're doing and what different they have to offer as well. So a lot of focus is being done, because this is going to be at an international scale and the audience would be from across the globe. So they're giving this platform as well, because they recognize the importance of sustainability as well. There was an innovation challenge that was launched last year during the first edition of Bharat Text in 2024, earlier this year. So we had been evaluating, a lot of startups were invited and the evaluation process were done. And now a lot of industry and government support is being given to them. And MOU was also signed, wherein with the local government bodies, we are trying to get in more post-consumer waste collected for recycling facilities as well. A national framework for sustainability is also coming in, the joint working groups with the industry, academia, with IFIs and so on. So a lot of work is being done there. On your second question, I think the way government functions in India is very they're very proactive, and the reforms that have happened over the years. So we have, if you talk about the rankings, we have really improved in the ease of doing business. We are now 63 now. There is an internal BRAP, wherein the states were working very proactively in reducing their compliance burden, the compliance and regulatory requirements that they have. That has substantially been reduced. There is a national single window system, so wherein whatever approvals, compliances is required, all that can be done at the convenience of your office, and click of a button. So a lot of regulatory easing, compliance reduction is being done. You can open a business now in 3 days in India. So I think the government, in fact, is acting as a facilitator more so, if I could say that. And a lot of investments that we've been bringing, for example, for Odisha, I think a lot of them were able to happen because the investors were very impressed in terms of the turnaround time, in terms of the proactive bureaucracy, and the way the government was able to sort of, help them at every step that they were functioning at. Whatever issues were there, they were quickly addressed and resolved. So I think in India, on the contrary, bureaucracy is acting as a catalyst, as a facilitator that is actually getting things moving faster on ground. So it's a very different situation, and we are very proud of the way the government is now functioning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for these inspiring, possibly last words. I don't know whether Mr. Sharma wants to add something to it. Otherwise, if that's not the case, I will ask one final question which just came in and is on a more lighthearted note. Bhavna, do you want to share your PPT later on?
Sure, we can do that.
Cool. So the person who just asked that question, yes, we shall send the PPT around. All right. So in that case, unless there are any other questions pending right now, please stop me if there are. Otherwise, I would come to my closing words. I wait for another second, but I think, okay. All right. So thank you so much to all of you, to all the participants, and of course the speakers for joining us for this webinar today. And we hope you found it informative and engaging. And we understand, of course, that your time is valuable, and we really appreciate that you chose to spend it with us today. If you have any further questions or comments, of course, don't hesitate to reach out to either the MIIM program or our speakers, Invest India, the Government of Odisha, or Kimora Klug from OAV or her colleagues. And we would be very happy, of course, to continue the conversation that we just had and to provide any additional information you may need. Last but not least, I would like to once more thank our speakers, Kimora Klug, Bhavna Dati, and Mr. Hemant Sharma, as well as, of course, the Embassy of India, the Government of Odisha, and the OAV, the Ostasiatischer Verein, or German Asia-Pacific Business Association, and Rödl Partner for the support. Thank you, dear attendees, for your patient listening, and we really look forward to connecting with you soon. Until then, and as always, stay safe, stay healthy, goodbye, und auf Wiedersehen. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.